Right.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh,
And
you.
so this we're trying to connect with the major concept in your book, Fear of Public Speaking,
Mhm.
under the context of emotional intelligence. What will be something that comes to you quickly as to how emotional intelligence can help to decrease the fear of public speaking? Because we're not trying to eliminate the fear of public speaking, right? That's part of what you said in your book.
Right.
So, but then how can we better control our fears using emotional intelligence?
Right. See, a lot of times it just really provides a framework because there are a lot of people. Earlier today, you said that there are a number of people, a lot of people, unfortunately, will rather die than give a speech. I hate to sound so cliche, but it's true. And when you look at the Gallup polls that were taken consistently every year, basically 77% of people, it doesn't say about your race, your background, your socioeconomics. It says 77% of people around the world have this inherent fear of public speaking. I believe the reason most people have a fear of public speaking is because they don't have the formula or the framework to make sure that they quell their fear of public speaking. I also believe that a lot of people succumb to the notion that somehow you have to fear speaking before other people. I think that
Yeah.
is entrenched in our society. I think that in our households, when we were growing up, we were told not to have a voice in some instances. When we're at school, we were told not to have a voice in some instances, and that's actually in a book that I talk about. And even on the job, even as professionals, even to this very day, you're told as a professional not to have a voice in some sort of instance. We were also told and actually trained very early on that if you have a certain pedigree or background, that I need to fear you. No, I don't need to
Yeah.
fear you. Why should I fear you? If anything, I'm in a position to learn from you. So I'm not going to fear your position. I'm not going to fear your background. I'm not going to fear your talents. The other thing, too, is when you understand that you have knowledge, skills, abilities, talents, and gifts, that you have a place in this world, that you are supposed to be here to share your gifts with everyone else, to essentially make your homes better, essentially make your job better, essentially to make the community in which you live better, as well as the world as a whole. However, that is defined, however, that is described for you, and how you actually put that out in the universe. I totally believe that every single person was placed on this earth for a reason to share their gifts.
Hmm.
The issue is if you have this fear of speaking to other people is going to actually hold you back. You're not going to be able to step into your fullness. You're not going to be able to
Yeah.
do what it is that you were destined to do. So I say, have a mission. What is your mission? Think about your mission. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? When you have that mission and that understanding, then it crystallizes for you what you are supposed to do. Your direction is your vision. How do I see myself in this space? And how do I want other people to see or perceive me in this space as well? That's
Hmm.
very important. That, in addition to knowing that you have a voice and we're human beings, in order for us to communicate, we have to interact with others, we have to speak with others, and that's part of the communication process from a
Hmm.
relational standpoint. When you also look at it from another perspective,
Yeah.
that is the foundation, what I just gave you. Applying emotional intelligence can also give you that additional framework to support your internal knowledge, your skills, your abilities, your talents, and your gifts. So it
Yeah.
actually supports that, it complements that, and it gives you a framework that you can utilize in real time. That it doesn't matter what stage you step on, it doesn't matter who you're speaking before, it doesn't matter the background or pedigree or how many people are in the audience, that you will be able to speak. Of course, we're not advocating that you're not going to have fear. That is not even human nature. as humans,
Mhm.
we're
Yeah.
born with fight or flight tendencies. Either you're going to flee or you're going to fight, whether that is literal or from a figurative standpoint, being that we're talking about public speaking. So
Yes.
suffice to say, if I'm on stage, I may have some sort of fear, but am I going to continue to fight through that fear and
Yeah.
deliver a powerful message to the audience? Because inevitably, we're there to provide a message to the audience. We're there to give them something.
Yeah.
They're there,
Mhm.
not really, I would like to think people are there for me, but they're really there for the message because you have something that they don't have that you've been through in your life
Yes.
that
Good.
you have and you were able to overcome. And now, because you were able to overcome, you have the knowledge on how to share that information with other people. That's inevitably
Good.
why they're there. So you're solving problems, you're helping
Mm.
alleviating pain points. That's your purpose. And when you focus on your audience and take the focus off of you, then when you're on that stage, the fear is going to dissipate because you know that it's not about you and it's about the audience and it's about giving them what they came there for to
Good.
change lives. So the
Thank you.
fear will actually go away. So, or
Mhm.
are you going to flee, meaning that you're not going to stand into your fullness on stage, that you're going to be so nervous to the point
Mhm.
where you're going to forget everything you need to say. You're not going to say everything that you want to say, or you're not going to deliver it in the way that you delivered it in your bedroom in front of your mirror.
God. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You mentioned something now about certain situations whereby you're expected to fear the other person. A certain background actually it supports that. Coming from Nigeria, whereby one of the ways that you can show that you respect somebody is when you feel certain way in their presence. So they can feel that you, especially in the academic environment, you're a professor, I'm a professor. So there's certain ways you have to feel in the presence of somebody who is ahead of you that can suggest that you respect them. But then the good thing is that that's not really so popular in American setting. So that's something I want to say. And I also saw something on social media. Artificial intelligence was used to create a video showing how women interact with their husband in 1960s to 2026.
I'm not getting into that.
So so I'll leave it like I'll leave it there. So it was really relatable as to things like that. So all right, so
Can I
one of the things that I
interject on
go ahead.
something? I want to touch on something. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to touch on
Yes.
something very briefly that you said because I don't want to gloss over it because it's vitally important because we're talking
Yeah.
about public speaking. You talked about you being from Nigeria. You talked about culture. You also talked about position. In other words, positional power. In terms of culture, it is true there are people from different parts of the world where they were trained. Again, it goes to my point, where they were trained culturally or environmentally that you have to fear someone because of their position, or you have to fear someone because they're an elder. That is not the same as respecting someone. Fearing someone and respecting someone, those are two totally different dynamics. I respect you and I will show respect, but I shouldn't fear you. You understand? Because now if I fear you, I'm afraid to ask questions. I'm afraid to be coached. I'm afraid to be mentored. And as a professor, I value those relationships. I don't want students to leave the classroom thinking that they were too afraid to ask me a question simply because I was the professor. You are in a prime position to ask questions, to understand critical thinking and analysis. Those are things that are very, very important. So if you're not in a position to ask questions, and I had colleagues who actually felt the same way that you mentioned. I never felt that way. I always felt that I can learn from the students just as much as they can learn from me. The question, however, is are you coachable? That's the question.
Good. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.